Welcome, welcome, welcome. So what is the doctrine of discovery, and why is it so important understanding what's going on in our country and world right now, today?
Well, I should say that I've got a PhD in religion, and I really got taught very little about the doctrine of discovery, right? Throughout my higher education, through graduate school, seminary, I think I'd heard the term, but it certainly was never taught as something central, I think, to America's current identity crisis, which is the way I think about it now, and in many ways a kind of Rosetta Stone for kind of understanding the deep structure of the conflicts that we're experiencing today. But essentially, it's a set of Christian doctrines that were put forward in the late 15th century over a period of about 50 years that were all about this dilemma. So what happens in the late 15th century? Well, it's the first European contact with the Americas, right? And so there are these quote-unquote discovered lands with quote-unquote discovered people in them. And there is this dilemma. What do we do? What's our responsibility? And can we exploit these lands and these people? And so 1493 is the year that I think is significant for the Americas and for our country, because it's not the year that Columbus sailed the ocean blue, right? 1492. It's the next year when he goes back. And so what he goes back to do is to get more soldiers, more missionaries, right, and more supplies to come back and really conquer and colonize, right? That's really the mission. And he needs permission to do that. So who does he appeal to? He appeals to the political structures, Ferdinand and Isabella in Spain, but he also appeals to the closest thing to international law that actually existed in Europe at the time, and that is the Pope in Rome. And I should say, we're at a Catholic university. This is not just a Catholic issue, right? So these edicts, they were papal bulls, which means they were kind of official edicts from the Vatican. But this is before the Protestant Catholic split. This is before the split between the Church of England and Catholicism. So all of Western Europe, right, is under the jurisdiction of the papal powers in Rome. And these documents just spell it out very straightforwardly. And what they say is this: the key part of the logic is that who deserves human rights and who does not is predicated on one thing only, and that is, are they Christian? Right? And the logic of this is, if these lands are occupied by people who are not Christian, and if they are not, and the only other corollary or caveat is, and they are not already dominated by a Christian power, right? So you can't interfere in another Christian power, but if they are free of Christian domination already and not Christian, you have the blessing of the church and the state to go in, to conquer, to kill, to steal their goods, occupy their towns, claim the land. And then this line, which I just seared in my mind, it's in the document, and it says that you have, and this is again from the person that Christians thought of as the vicar of Christ on earth, right? It says this, that you have the right not only to go in and kill, conquer, and all that, but to reduce their persons to perpetual slavery. Right, that's in the document, right, in addition to all of the other rights. So that sense, right, of these lands, these previously undiscovered lands by Europeans, being set up and understood to be claimed as a kind of promised land for European Christians, regardless of the people who are already here, is kind of the key insight and really the power of the doctrine of discovery that sets off Native American genocide. It sets off the transatlantic trade, slave trade, all of it, right? You can trace back to the root of this idea. There's a great, by the way, quick aside, there's a great website called the doctrineofdiscovery.org where all these documents are there. They're in Latin, they're in English. You can kind of see them in the original